Hello everyone, in this tutorial we're diving deeper into Python and exploring a fundamental aspect of programming, functions. So what are functions? A function in Python is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. Think of a function as a machine in a factory. You give this machine some input, it does some work, and then it gives you some output. Functions can help us make our code more organized, more readable, and more reusable. They're also essential for reducing code duplication and improving the efficiency of our programs. The anatomy of a function consists of the def keyword, which is short for define, followed by the function name with parentheses and a colon. The function's code block, which is the specific task or tasks the function will carry out, is then indented on the next lines. The function can be called throughout your code after the function is defined. Remember, all the code that is indented under the def keyword is part of the function. Once your code stops being indented, it is no longer part of the function, and it's part of the global scope of your program. So the code inside of the function is called the function's local scope, and code outside of the function, which is where we used to write all of our code, is called the global scope. Let's create our first function. This function will simply print hello world when called. So let's just type def greet. It'll be a function that greets the user, two parentheses, and then a colon. Remember, when we add a colon at the end, it means that we're defining an indented block of code. And so when we hit enter, you should be indented now. If it doesn't automatically indent you, you'll just hit tab. Now inside this, we can just do something simple like print hello world. If we do another enter, it'll probably stay indented, but we're not trying to define our function anymore. So you can hit backspace to get outside of this function. You might notice that if we save this and run it, there is no output. Once a function is defined, we can call it using its name followed by parentheses. Let's call our greet function. Like I said, this doesn't do anything so far, but if we wanted to do something, we can type greet, and then the two parentheses. And now when we save this and run it, it prints out hello world. So when you run this code, Python defines the function, meaning it knows what to do with the function when it's called. But this print statement doesn't execute until we actually call the function. After the function is defined, then we called the function, resulting in hello world being printed to the console. We can run this as many times as we want. We can type greet again, and it'll print hello world 2 times. We could even do it 3 times if we wanted. You can do it as many times as you want. If you'll notice, this is similar to any other function we've used before, including the print function and the input function. And also, as you noticed, we used a function inside a function, the print function. And also, make sure you call all your functions after defining them. Otherwise, Python will not know what it is. For example, if I put greet above the definition, and we saved it and ran it, we would say name greet is not defined. This is because, like I said in the beginning, the code runs from top to bottom. It needs to define what this function does before actually running it. This is just like trying to print a variable before you created it. Always define your function first and then call it. A lot of times people define all their functions at the top of their file and then run them throughout the code below it. So we can make our greet function do even more. It doesn't have to just be one line of code. We could print a hi again. And now we get hello world and hi. And now let's just write a little simple program. We could just say number is equal to 10 and then do while number is greater than 8. We could say greet every time, and then number minus equals 1. This will just decrement it by 1. And when we run this, we get it 2 times, and that's just because the first time it was 10, so it was still greater than 8, so it did this, it subtracted it, so now it's 9, and then it did it, right? And then it subtracted it again, and then it was 8 though, so it didn't do it the third time, because 8 is not greater than 8. And so that was just a simple little program to show you how functions can be used, because instead of having to actually copy this code many times, and in fact, actually, if you had more of these, right, you had number 2 equal to 10, and we did that exact same thing, it would be very inefficient to repeat these 2 lines of code like this, because whenever you're repeating anything in programming, if you ever see repeated code, always think to yourself, is there a way I can fix this? And most of the time, the way to fix this is create a function and then just call that function multiple times. And by repeated code, I mean multiple lines of code. If you have one line of code, like a line where you're running a function, that's fine. You can repeat that. But don't repeat multiple lines of code unless there's no possible way for you to create it in a function or something like that. And I know that I'm kind of not even following my own rules here, considering the fact that I wrote these two while loops repeatedly, but it was just an example.